Hello, my name is Anjani, and today we are doing the inner god and inner goddess activation. So if you don't have your astrology chart, we can look at the one for today. So today is April 21st, and the time is 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So today, Mars is in Gemini at 0 degrees. And Venus is at 27 degrees of Pisces. So if you don't have your chart and you don't know your Venus and Mars positions, you can focus on this chart for the day. If you do know your Venus and Mars positions, and I have a few charts here of people who signed up for the workshop, and I'll mention you by name or by your birthday, so we can communicate that way. So basically what we're looking at is the feminine energy and the masculine energy. And something that I've been really focusing on a lot in the past few years is breaking down, the way I called it was dissolution of genderism. So dissolving the concepts and ideas and beliefs that we've built up around what is feminine and what is masculine. Because essentially, there is no standard definition, because female, what that means is that it's feminine. Masculine means it's masculine. There's, when you plug something into a wall, there's like a female part that you can plug something into, and then the masculine part, the male part, is what you're plugging. So the whole sort of idea that the thing that is female has to be this certain way, and the thing that is masculine has to be this certain way. Growing up, I had never cared about makeup or clothes, like playing dress up and all that kind of stuff. I never really cared about that. I've always been into things that aren't necessarily considered feminine. And I know a lot of men, like my best friends, all of my guy friends, and I would say mostly all of the guys who I know have more of what society would consider to be feminine traits. So it's been evident to me that we have to dissolve and break down what we have been taught and what we've been considering to be feminine and masculine. So through the lens of astrology, I found a way to do that is really helpful. It's really helped me a lot, and it really helps a lot of people. So I like it. So what we're looking at is going to be Venus and Mars. And if you don't care about astrology or you don't know your Venus and Mars position, we're just going to, I'll ask you a few questions. And so have a pen and paper ready so you can write down some responses to questions that I'm going to be asking. So on that note, let's set the space. So I have water. I always bring some altar items whenever I'm going to do any astrology readings or any work that I consider to be sacred. So we're creating sacred space. Light some incense, bring crystals or whatever you want to create the space for yourself. And a notepad and a pen. And just start to become aware of your breathing. So bringing all of your energy into your center. So what this looks like to me is sort of inhaling and connecting with the above and connecting with the below. So you can imagine the crown of the head opening up. I like to imagine connecting to the sky, connecting to the sun, the moon. Today with Venus and with Mars for what we're doing today. Imagining or feeling my own spine opening up at the root, at the base of my spine. And imagine or feel that you're connecting with the earth. So, really feeling grounded, rooted into the earth. When you breathe in, you're going to inhale. Imagine that earth energy coming up into the spine, filling you up, opening at the crown, and connecting with the above. Breathing all those energies in, and imagine that circulating through your body. And on the exhale, you're just letting go of everything else that isn't pure source energy. So we're going to do a few rounds of that breathing. So really pulling all of yourself into your center and letting go of everything else that isn't pure source energy. If you're not comfortable with the visualizations, you can also just inhale to a count of 9. Retain the breath for a count of 9. And then exhale the breath to a count of 9. It's really nice, calming, soothing energy. I know 9 is this maybe an advanced amount of time to inhale and exhale and to retain breath. So you can always do 4 or 3. Just to get yourself grounded and centered. So let's start off by asking a few questions. So whatever, so the first thing I want to say is if you're a man or a woman, and this is the whole thing, you know, if you, something my kids, I have teenage kids, what they say is identify as. If you identify as a woman, or if you identify as a man. And I think this whole thing about identity has come from the limitations that society has put on what is feminine and what is masculine. So I'm not going to use that. I'm not sure even if that is what is politically correct, you know, saying if you identify as a woman or if you identify as a man. If you are a woman, if you were born a woman, the way that we look at Venus, it is your physical body. If you were born as a woman, we look at Venus to be, we call it the gender planet. So, and if you identify, if you're a male, and a lot of my friends that I mentioned earlier are feminine, they're more feminine in nature. A lot of them have their Venus, their Mars in Pisces. So the way that they're expressing their masculine energy is actually, in Pisces or in Cancer or in Scorpio. So they have that more feminine quality, but they're men. They're still masculine. So the way Carl Jung described this is the sword you carry. So let's look. I have one man here who and so this is birthday on December 7th, 1992. His Mars is in Cancer. So Mars in Cancer would be the sword he carries. The way that he expresses his masculine energy is nurturing. So if he's in a relationship with a woman, the way that he is embodying his form of the masculine, he is going to protect her. He's going to nurture her. He's going to be loving to her. He might want to go do gardening together, or he might enjoy cooking with his girlfriend or his partner. And if he, by chance, was interested in men, so let's look at where his Venus is. He's got Venus in the sign of Capricorn. So his feminine is in Capricorn. So if he were interested in men, he might be attracted to men who represent his inner feminine, even though he likes men. Okay, so this is where I feel like people get really confused because of the whole gender identification, and it's really, really simple. your masculine essence may be feminine. You know, the sword that you carry may be of a nurturing nature. That does not make you in any less of a way a man. And this is a perfect chart to use as an example because his feminine is the chief. You know, Venus in Capricorn is the boss. She's the tribal elder. She is setting the structure. So that's his inner feminine. So if we're looking at this for this person, his name's Liam, he would, you know, to unite and activate his inner God. He's going to do things that have to do, you know, maybe go cook a meal, do some gardening, do something that is nurturing. It could be nurturing to self, but usually when we look at Cancer, it's nurturing to others. To activate his goddess, his form of the masculine, he's going to do things that feed that archetype of Cancer. And then for him to awaken his inner feminine, to connect with his inner feminine, he can do things, and it's usually for a man looking at his inner feminine, he'll look outward. He's projecting her onto the women in his life. So if I sit with Liam and I'm talking with him, and he, you know, he's going to be processing me through his own perception, his own view. And most likely, he's going to notice those things that represent his inner feminine. So one way that he can work with that from the inside is to do things that feed that archetype. So he would go, you know, set up a plan. You know, I know this person, he likes to work out. So he might make a new gym routine for himself and, you know, make a new schedule for, you know, whatever it is that he's building with his personal training business. And that's another thing. This Venus in the sign of Capricorn likes having its own business. It's very good at having its own business. It's a chief. It's a tribal elder. So for him to connect with his inner feminine, he's going to be doing things that society might consider to be masculine things. And to connect with his masculine energy, he is going to be doing things that society would consider to be feminine. So this is the whole, you know, the whole thing about breaking down and dissolving the idea that masculine has to show up in one way or the other. So let's go ahead now and look at, I have another chart here that I want to use as an example because this is really beautiful. So this is Beth, and she has her Venus in the sign of Aquarius. I have my Venus in Aquarius also. So this is the form of the goddess who is connected to cosmic consciousness. I was with a client earlier today, and I was mentioning to her, you know, talking about this class, and I was telling her I really vibe a lot with the girl I was working with. I feel like we have so much in common, you know. She's a lot like me. I feel like that. I feel like we're a lot in common. And I was mentioning that, you know, my form of the feminine, I have never cared about makeup or shoes or, you know, the things, nail polish. That's what we were talking about. Like, I've never cared about nail polish or my nails, really. I care about books. I love studying. I love philosophy. I love, you know, practicing meditation, getting into my light body, getting into that where I'm connecting to divinity and feeling that pure flow of energy. So that's my form of the feminine. And that is not what we consider to be feminine. You know, it's like, oh, she's really, I mean, I've always considered myself to be neutral on feminine and masculine. I don't feel like I'm a masculine woman by any means. I also don't feel feminine by the standard of what society has. So looking at the astrology chart, it's like, oh, okay, so my form of the feminine and Beth's form of the feminine, this is, you know, we're bright, we're brilliant. You know, there's a light in the eyes of Venus in Aquarius that is brilliance itself. So, okay, so here we go. Venus in the sign of Aquarius is going to be the form of the feminine that is light. It's brilliant. It is thinking and sort of connecting with things that nobody else has ever thought of. This, you know, innovation is really coming up with something out of the blue, you know. I've created this whole workbook called Creating Your Own Mythology, based off of some concepts from astrology and some concepts from tantric philosophy and some concepts from the Hermetic principles, and created this whole workbook that's super innovative. That feeds my form of the feminine. And so for Beth, I know a little bit about her, and I've read this chart. And some of the ways that she expresses her feminine is through music, and through, she does this beautiful art, she dances. It's a form of the feminine that is very ethereal. I think that I was, you know, using the image of a fairy when I was reading her chart. So her masculine, her Mars is in the sign of Capricorn. So for her, connecting to her inner masculine, it's going to be connecting with that part of herself that sets structure and form. So like I said with the first chart, is that we'll usually, for a woman, we will usually project our Mars out onto the men in our life. So to men who are the chief, who are the boss, who, this is for somebody with their Mars in Capricorn energy, you know, she might really connect with that energy. And through, you know, the early portion of life, maybe got into relationships with that form of the masculine. And then for her to awaken that part of herself, she's going to go, not necessarily go anywhere, but I like to do rituals. I like to actually do something, like I'm making an offering to, like in India, we do fire puja. So I'm doing my hand like that because we throw flowers into the fire to whatever the essence is of the puja, of the ceremony that we're working with. And there's so many. So every form of divinity that you can think of, and even things that you haven't been able to think of, we're able to connect with that energy through ritual and ceremony. So what I would do if I had my Mars in Capricorn would be build something. I might really go out and put together a flower bed, or, and I'm just thinking small because I don't have my Mars, I don't really have much of anything in Capricorn, but going big, I might want to say build a house or build a structure, you know, where you're actually making something that's going to last for the next 7 generations. And now that I'm thinking of the combination of her Venus and her Mars, what she's doing with her music, you know, she makes videos, and that is something that will last for the next 7 generations. So putting something together, building something, that's going to be activating her masculine. So let's now get those 2. I have 2 more to do, but before I do that, let's just look at the day. So if you're watching this video and you don't know your Venus and Mars, or if you just don't care at all, you know, it doesn't matter. If you don't care, that's fine. because you can still connect with feminine and masculine in the sky. Or, I kind of want to go away from connecting with what you consider to be feminine and masculine within yourself, because unless you really have dissolved your mental constructs around feminine and masculine, because I did a workshop 2 years ago where I was just getting my feet in on Venus and Mars. And I did a workshop, and at the end of the workshop, it was an hour and a half. One of the participants, she was like, at the end, it was like, we've just gone through the whole class. And she was like, well, I'm going to go hang pictures. So she was going to be hammering and nailing. She's like, I'm going to connect with my masculine and go do some hammering and nailing. And I was just like, wow, her Mars was in Gemini. And that's not what her form of the masculine cares about at all. Her Mars was in Gemini. So to connect with her form of the masculine, it would have been to go do something fun or playful, or play a good game of Jeopardy, because Gemini really likes that mental hide and seek. I feel like Jeopardy is such a good Gemini thing, because you have to answer with a question. So it's like there's two different things. Gemini likes that duality and really, really likes playfulness. So hammering would not feed her form of the masculine. So it's stuck. I feel like it's really stuck for a lot of us. So let's look at Venus right now. Venus is in the sign of Pisces. Pisces is really, I wouldn't call this overtly feminine, but it is watery. It's fluid. It is empathic, psychic, intuitive. So connecting with Venus right now, automatically I think of doing selfless service, doing something that is universally loving and compassionate, because that's what Pisces. To awaken that part of yourself, what you would do is any type of, if you don't feel like doing service, if you don't want to go and do something like one of those random acts of kindness, you could pay attention to your dreams tonight. That would awaken Venus in her, what she is representing today. Venus is in Pisces. So then to connect with Mars, Mars is in the sign of Gemini right now, which is what I just kind of went over. Gemini is in service to spirit through bringing joy and playfulness. So if you wanted to connect with Mars right now, you might play a round of Jeopardy, or, something that I'm actually thinking about doing when I turn this video off, because I will not do it in front of people, is get out my drum and drum. I sometimes like to put on Krishna Das, because there's a lot of like rhythmic sounds in most of his music. Play it loud and just drum. I'm not really good at it because I haven't been trained, but my dad's a drummer. So Kopapelli, that's one of my favorite archetypes for Gemini, is Kopapelli. So the story of Kopapelli is that he is a traveling musician. He goes from tribe to tribe, plays some music, might have relations with a tribal woman or two, and is kind of like that Don Juan, shapeshifter. And in the morning, he's gone. The villagers wake up. There's probably a huge mess from a party that was so much fun. And he's gone, and they're never to see him again. Or maybe they will, maybe they won't. It's a great mystery. So that's the energy of what Mars is in right now. So that energy we would not necessarily consider to be a masculine. If you have your Mars, actually one of my good friends has his Mars in Gemini, and it is you know, before I knew about astrology and I met him, I was like, wow, he's like Peter Pan, you know, he's the eternal youth. And that's because that's his form of the masculine. So it's going to be different for everybody. And that's really the foundation of dissolving genderism, is that it's going to be different. So I'm going to do two more, and then we're going to do a meditation. So to activate Venus and Mars within. So this next one I'm reading is the 2nd of April, 1971. And his form of the feminine is in Pisces. So Venus is way over here, and his Venus is at 4 degrees Pisces. So at the beginning of last month, he was actually having a really closer conjunction with Venus. So for this guy's inner feminine, what he most wishes to connect with on the outside, with his vid, whether he's attracted to men or women, what he most wishes to connect with is the form that is empathic, intuitive, psychic, sensitive, this watery, what my teacher often talks about with Venus is the bodhisattva. You know, this is a form of the feminine that wants to become enlightened, to help enlighten everybody. You know, it's like Mother Teresa or Kuan Yin. So when he is, you know, attracted to a woman or another, I don't want to say woman or man, because who knows, he might like men. It's going to be the form that is very sensitive, very loving to everybody, not just him. And for him to activate that part of himself, he's going to do things that are universally loving and compassionate. And then his Mars is in Capricorn. So we've had a few of these with Mars in Capricorn so far. And his form of the masculine is, oh, you know what? He has a school too. So it's perfect. He actually embodies both of these from my perspective, because his Aries, or the way that he expresses his masculine energy, is through setting structure and form, building something that is supporting and feeding the next 7 generations. So this isn't a sacred marriage class at all, but just because of what I'm seeing and noticing here, something that is called the sacred marriage is where you unite these two within yourself. So he, at this point of his life, he was born in 1971, so he's mature by now. I mean, I won't say that, but we'll leave that to him to decide. But, you know, he may have noticed that he was attracted to this form of the feminine, and this is his sword that he carries. And he may have already just done this union within himself, where he is really embodying both of those archetypes and doing the merging within, which we'll do that activation in the next portion of this class. So for him, it is really about setting structure and form and being this empathic, sensitive form, you know. I really love this guy. He's something really special to me. So that's that one. The last one we have here is May 8th, 1961. This is Maria. Her Venus is in Aries. So I really, really love this, because this is the opposite of what society has accepted as a form of the feminine, because Aries is the archetype that we love in men. So currently, that is. Mars, it's similar to Mars. It's the same energy. It's the warrior, it's aggressive, it's assertive. And for a woman, we're not like, oh, yay, look at this super ambitious, aggressive, adrenaline, action oriented little girl we have, you know? So it can be a little bit challenging for a woman who has her Venus in Aries, because she is a little bit more assertive. And the way that she would feed her archetype of the goddess is going to be through fierce, warrior-esque, protective energy. This is like the midwife who will like tear your face off if you come near the birthing space. And then her masculine, her Mars is in Leo. So she might often find herself in relationships or attracted to the kind of man who is, I call him the peacock. He is on center stage and he's gorgeous. Usually, when you have Mars in Leo and you're a woman, you're projecting that type out onto the other. So the form of the masculine who's kind of strutting around and in the spotlight. And what she would do was become that herself. So she is going to do something that brings her into the spotlight. And, maybe getting some new clothes. Maybe I should do that too. So all eyes on you. That's the sort of energy of Mars in Leo. So now what we're going to do, I'm going to ask a couple of questions, so have your pen and paper ready. Describe the opposite sex in your most honest and non-politically correct way. So if you're a woman, describe the way that what do you think about men? And don't try to sugarcoat it. Like I had a girl, her video's on here live. I had somebody I did a live reading with. What she was saying was like, well, men really are like, and she listed out what she thought about men. And it was hilarious because she had her Mars in Taurus and it fit perfectly to that archetype. So just, don't censor yourself. Write out some things that you think about the opposite sex. So just take a few minutes and describe. My Mars is in Pisces, so I would say, don't worry about what your Mars is in, actually. Don't worry, don't think at all, just write. So I might say that men are afraid to show their emotions, or they are, I'll be quiet. Just write something there. Now, write about, so you described the opposite sex, like you wrote a couple of things about the opposite sex. Now write a few things about the same sex. So not necessarily about yourself, but what you think of the same sex. Describe the same sex. So if I'm a woman, I'm going to write that I think, women are afraid to be smart, or that's something that I always thought, like, because I am highly intelligent, highly intellectual. I was born in 1979, so growing up, it was like the ditzy, like guys like that kind of girl. And I'm not that kind of girl, but I would try to pretend to be that kind of girl to get attention from guys. And maybe when I first moved here, I had a crush on this guy, oh my God, for like a whole year. His name was Jared. And when I finally got up the nerve to like put some moves on him, you know, which was like, hey, let's, I don't remember. I'm not really good at that whole thing. Like, when I finally got up the nerve though, and we started talking and spending time together outside of work, he said he thought I was goofy. He was just like, you're just so goofy, but you're not. He was like, I thought you were this goofball, but you're super deep and super smart. So I might describe the feminine like that, like, oh, women, you know, they pretend to be bimbos or something like that, you know. So describe the way that you sort of, because it is a projection. Everything is really a projection, you know. And when you answer these questions from a quick place, not thinking about it, you'll get to see more about yourself. So I just kind of let the cat out of the bag. Now you're going to not want to write honestly because it's really hard to be honest with ourselves, you know. So hopefully you wrote something down. I'll give you a couple more minutes or 1 minute. Now, are you comfortable accepting that what you have just described is you? Excuse me, let me have a drink of water. Are you comfortable accepting that what you have described is you? So I'm just going to read this here, something that I wrote. Feeling a sense of deep love and acceptance for your relationship. I'm not crying. I really just, my throat got tight all of a sudden. Feeling a deep sense of love and acceptance for your relationship with the feminine and masculine within, especially the things you don't like, is key to creating personal magnetism and sexuality. There are many ancient techniques for harmonizing the energy of opposites within your body. And then something that I offer here in this book that I wrote, or it's an ebook, it's not really that long, is doing balancing techniques within the body to balance your own feminine and masculine energy. So the whole thing that we've done so far is very intellectual, because I really wanted to get to understanding that the way that you perceive feminine and masculine may be incorrect. You may have been putting your feminine traits in, you know, okay, well, the things that I do that are feminine are smelling flowers, wearing nail polish, wearing pink, painting my toes, and the masculine things that I do might be when I go out and do heavy yard work, or I like to work out. So doing physical activities that get, you know, I like lifting weights and, you know, doing a lot of intense physical things. That's not necessarily connecting me to my masculine. So that was what we were looking at in the beginning part of this. Now what I want to do is kind of drop the intellect, drop what we've studied so far and what we've looked at with our mind, and get into a place of feeling so that you're able to connect on the inside. So just take a minute. Close your eyes if you want to. Take some deep breaths, doing that earth circulating breath that we started with, where you're inhaling energy up through your spine, opening the spine at both ends and circulating that energy. So breathing in, filling up, exhaling, and really releasing everything that is not pure source energy. And one breathing exercise that we're going to do is to balance the left and right hemispheres of the brain. So this is analoma viloma. And normally you would be doing this in a seated posture. So if you're sitting in a chair, that's fine for right now. You're going to take your right hand and this, and you're going to just cover your nose and inhale the left nostril to a count of 4. And then you're going to close. So we're retaining the breath for a count of 8. And then we're going to lift the thumb up and exhale to a count of 8. So I said that wrong. We're actually retaining the breath for a count of 16. So we're just going to do a few rounds of this breathing to sort of balance the right and left hemispheres of the brain. So you're taking your hand, you're going to inhale to a count of 1, 2, 3, and 4. Retain the breath for a count of 16. I'll count for you. And then you're going to exhale to a count of 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And inhale, Om 1, Om 2, Om 3, Om 4. Retain the breath for a count of 16, and I'll count. Exhale, Om 1, Om 2, Om 3, Om 4, 5, Om 6, Om 7, Om 8. Now inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Retain the breath. It's the last round. Retaining the breath for a count of 16. Now exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Release the hand, breathe in from both nostrils. So of course you're going to do this breathing exercise a lot more. So about 5 or 10 minutes to really get the right and left hemispheres of your brain balanced. And this really balances the energy in the body. So this breathing exercise is actually meant to balance the prana. There is 5 different directions that prana moves in the body. So use that. And now the last thing we're going to do here is a releasing exercise. So really releasing everything that we have considered to be other, meaning that, in our past relationships, usually there'll be a pattern, a repeating pattern. So I'll use myself for an example, because what else can I do? I'm the only one who, I only know that pattern for myself. So in connection with men, I have a pattern of, I don't know if I mentioned that, my form of the masculine is Pisces. So I have a sort of pattern of connecting with men who are a little sensitive and more feminine, more of a softer features. And it is sort of a habit. And what I would, to release that pattern, I'm going to fully accept that this is my form of the masculine. So write out a list of your past partners. And for each of the partners, you're going to write out the main issues, how you felt, and how the relationship ended. So some of the main issues for my past relationships would have been there's always an addictive sort of thing that's involved, where like an attachment to the person. That's one of my main issues. And then my feeling, the way I felt may have been a desperation, like I needed to have that person in my life. And then how the relationship ended. I would say 99%, all of my relationships except for one ended with me leaving, with me having to, I've always broke up with everybody except for one person. So write that down for yourself. And then the next thing is asking yourself, can I take ownership for how I felt and how I still may be feeling without blaming the other person? Can I take ownership of how I felt and how I may still be feeling without blaming the other person? Next thing is, what was gained from this union? Spiritually, emotionally, physically, and or mentally. The next question is, what was lost from this union? The last part of this is just imagine from your infinite self's perspective. So taking out, all the parts of yourself, like your ego and your what's feminine, what's masculine, like taking all that out and looking at it from your infinite self's perspective. What is it that these past lovers, partners are showing me about my own depth, my own intensity, my own magic and beauty? So you might want to, when you go back and listen to this, pause at each of those questions and write down whatever it is that comes up for you. So each of our relationships that we've had in the past, there is growth in that. And even though the relationship is over, or maybe you're just getting through that or getting over that, or maybe you're in a relationship right now, and I didn't ask the questions in that way, but you can ask yourself in that way also. Write your current lover's name, your current partner. Write out the main issues in the relationship, how you feel, and can you take ownership of this without blaming your partner? What is being gained from this union with your current partner? Spiritually, emotionally, physically, and mentally. And again, just imagine from your infinite self's perspective, what is my partner showing me about my own depth, my own intensity, my own magic and beauty? I'm going to move this over and see if anybody has made any comments, or this is my first time using this program, so I wanted to go live so I could communicate, and I just don't see how to do that. So let me have another peek here. So there is a chat box here. So let's see if does anybody have any questions? I can open the floor up like that and ask. Oh, hi. Oh, I wish I would have known that people were here. Okay, so Pisces. There's a chat box here. So, oh, wow. Oh, gosh. anybody. Does anybody have any? Okay, so I am not sure if I'm still recording or not. I don't see any questions here, so we have somebody here who says they're a Pisces, so I'm assuming that means a Pisces sun. Well, unless your Venus is in Pisces, I don't know. We got Wild Roses, hello. And Dominic is there. Okay, so I don't see any questions here. Let's see, let's go ahead now and we'll do one more thing. And this is really just to integrate and to close up the work that we've done today. So an integration for the feminine and masculine. You're just going to imagine, get a good look if you have your chart and you're using your own Venus and Mars. If you don't have your chart and you're just going off of what you feel as your feminine and masculine energy, or if you're using Venus and Mars in the sky right now, Venus being in Pisces and Mars being in Gemini. So whatever it is that you're going to connect to, we're just going to imagine that those energies are connecting within. So for myself, I'm going to, visualize my Pisces and Aquarius, and then I'm going to visualize my Mars in Venus, my Mars in Pisces. And so I'm holding my hands up like this because here's my Venus in Aquarius, here's my Mars in Pisces. So mentally, if you don't have a good, like a lot of people tell me that they're saying that they're not very visual. So if you don't have strong imagination capacity, you can use like your own feeling function. So I have a strong imagination and mental capacity. So however it is for you, get a good look at your feminine and a good look at your masculine. So I get to imagine what that might look like. Imagine what your form of the feminine is and what your form of the masculine is. And bring them to life, give them a form, give them features. And then imagine, here's your feminine, here's your masculine. Imagine them turning and facing each other and looking into each other's eyes. And you can, imagine this connection happening within. So you might want to ask have your inner feminine, is there anything that you would like me to know about you? Is there anything that I can do in my life right now to honor you as a goddess? And write down anything you get, any that is the response from your form of the feminine. If you're masculine, same thing, get a good look. What does he look like? What does he feel like? What's his form? And then same thing, ask him, is there anything you would like me to know? How can I honor you? And listen for the response by a feeling, a sensation that might come up. You might get a mental image. So write that down. Imagine the two facing each other and really connecting with each other. So this is happening internally, seeing that union happening within. And just like in a dream, for me in a dream, a lot of times there is no words. It is just through the eyes, through looking into the eyes of the beloved. That connection happening within. and write down any responses that you get, any feelings that come up or visions or insights that you get from that connection. Then when you're in that space with the two connecting, just going to do a breathing exercise again where, imagining that the right nostril is connecting to your masculine, and the left is connecting to the feminine, so that when you're breathing in through both nostrils, you're really feeding both sides. So both your feminine and your masculine are getting full prana, full life force energy, circulating that energy through your body and through that image you have of your feminine and your masculine within. Inhale, fully breathing in, saturating your inner feminine and inner masculine with life force energy. And when you exhale, releasing anything from past relationships, your past mental constructs of feminine and masculine, and just completely letting that go. Inhaling fresh, new life into your feminine and masculine, and exhaling through both nostrils, releasing anything from the past. Keep doing that, breathing. Oh, Genevieve, hi. Oh, good. Okay, yeah. So, yeah, you have Libra. I didn't have your chart printed out. So you have Libra for both your feminine and your masculine. So Mars in Libra and Venus in Libra. So when they're dual like that, when both are in the same sign, it's really to me, I think it would be easier to sort of, you know what, there's a guy who I know right now who has the same thing. His Libra, Venus and Mars, both are in Libra. This is somebody who's very relational. So your form of the feminine and the masculine really wants to connect with the other. This is a very relational combination. And in myself, I'm kind of interested in this person. So something, oh good, I'm glad this is coming up, because I have a little, let's see, where's the chart here. Something you might do if you do have a love interest is, it's a little tricky. If you know okay, so say he's a guy, and I know that his Venus is in Libra, so this is the type of the feminine that he most wishes to connect with. I might want to impress him, while keeping in my own, always being honest and true to your own self. But I know that he likes that form of the feminine that is relational, that is a good host or a good hostess. And actually, when I went over to his place I went to teach him something, I showed up over there, and right away he's like, can I get you some water? Here's a cushion. And, super relational. And I already knew his chart. So I knew that was the way he was expressing his masculine, the way that he was expressing the sword that he carries is Libra. So that's the way that he's masculine. I'm not looking for him to go chop off somebody's head or to be a fierce. I'm not saying that he's not, but the way that he was showing it was through Libra. And, I know I'm keeping in my mind, like, okay, I know that he's attracted to the form of the feminine that is also like that. So I might, when I invited him over, I made sure to be like, can I get you some water? Here's a cushion. Would you like to sit on this? And and so that's something that it might be helpful for you if you're in a partnership or you're interested in somebody. you might look at so Genevieve, you might look at your partner's chart and look at where is Venus on his chart. So you look at Venus, and let me grab another person who who I like. This is another, okay, so my Venus is in Aquarius. So I have all these like mental relationships. It's like my Venus, my form of the goddess, connects to, can connect and never connect, So this person, he's been my boyfriend for about 9 years. And he never knew that, I'm sure, because I think we had one deep conversation the night before he left the ashram. I really connected with this person and just fell in love with him. And he's been my mental boyfriend for about 8 or 9 years now. So that's a gift of Venus in Aquarius. Beth might be able to really connect with that. But here, I know that I didn't know this before, but I can see that his Venus is in Pisces. So the form of the feminine that he's interested in has to do with empathy, being universally loving. And if not like he lives in Greece, so it's not like anything's ever going to happen. I mean, maybe. But, if I were sitting with him, I might, I don't want to say like you're putting on a show, because it's not like that. Technically, we are all of this. We are the wholeness of the astrology chart. In Chinese medicine, we are all 5 elements. In Ayurveda, we all are all of the doshas. So I'm Kapha, Pitta, and Vata, but we have it in different proportions. So I can really, tune into my, good. I can really, oh, good, me too. So this is exactly what I'm talking about. You're right. I remember I saw that guy's chart. His Venus is in Pisces. So I'm going to put this on, I'm going to really put on my, this might sound so manipulative. I don't know if it is. Let me know if you think it is. But I'm going to flex that part of myself. I could, in the beginning, as meeting somebody, and I know that he likes that form of the feminine, I can do more of that. And it wouldn't be so far outside of myself, because I actually have my sun in Pisces and other, I can connect to that energy, So if your partner has his Venus in the sign of Pisces, he is attracted to the form of the goddess, who is universally loving and compassionate. She is going to be loving not only to him. So he's going to like that part of you that like saves puppies and pulls over on the side of the road to help a sick bird, or and I'm thinking of things that have actually happened, that my dad has his Mars and his Mars is in Pisces. So his form of the masculine has to do with saving sick puppies and taking care, being that sort of Kuan Yin energy or Mother Teresa energy. And I'm obviously not saying that to do that all the time, but that's the form of the feminine that he's attracted to. And really, if you get to be in a relationship with that person, I'm just going to imagine for a moment that I get to be in a relationship with this person who I have been mentally for the last 8 years. I'm going to be helping him get into his feminine. I'm going to be projecting that. And also, knowing that that's his form of the goddess. He is the one who's universally loving and compassionate. And he might not be able to embody that at the moment because of many reasons. Number one, his form of the feminine is very psychic and very sensitive and empathic. And it might be uncomfortable for a man to really embody those parts of himself. So for you, you can help him to feel more comfortable and more confident in those traits. And I just was getting really goofy for a second, but I just remembered that last year for about 3 months, I was dating somebody. His moon in Pisces, his Venus in Pisces, and his Mars in Pisces. So he was super Pisces, but he could not be in his Pisces. And it's something that we have done culturally, is like, have rejected that actually, I know a lot of guys with Mars in Pisces or with their sun in Pisces. And I know that that's because that's my form of the masculine, that's me. And so I attract all these relationships and people in my life who have a similar vibration as me. But looking back at that relationship, he was very repressed in his feminine energy. So it's really sad, it's like, how can we, and there's nothing, we can't do it for them, but how can we model that and encourage our partner to express his Venus when it's in Pisces, or his Mars when it's in Pisces, So Pisces, yeah. All right, so I'll go ahead and end here. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm going to send you, those of you guys who signed up, an email with this ebook, because it's so full of exercises and a lot of things you can do. Let me see. Energy, let me hear, just soaking it in like a sponge. The activation, love it. My crown feels open, my nasal area twitching. Amazing breathing exercises. Okay, great. I'm going to go ahead and send everybody who's in this live chat the ebook, just so you can have that. Thank you so much for joining and participating. I'm going to start doing these once a week, whether or not anybody shows up. I'm just going to go ahead and keep giving mini workshops, about an hour and a half, on different aspects of the astrology chart and just different things. So thank you so much. I love you all. And I'm going to send you something. I think I can do it through YouTube, but if I can't figure it out, please email me and I'll get the that ebook to you. So thank you so much. I'm going to close now, unless anybody has any final questions here. Okay, stopping now. Bye-bye.